Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my Sunday live stream where we talk about photography and I try to share with you my journey as I go through this phase of my photography where I'm really trying to still find my style or things that I enjoy and also I like to get together with everyone, see how everybody's been doing. I'm really very proud of the little community that we have here that we can come together with like-minded individuals and talk about photography. So, and as always, I'm always do my best to answer any questions you might have because I know a lot of you, if you're new or haven't been in my streams before, you might be here to ask a specific question, maybe about a video I made in the past. So I'll do my best there as well. And so, yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since I've streamed, and I really haven't created any new content other than a couple of reviews I did for some products, and I have two or three more reviews I need to finish um, later this week as well. So I've been busy working with different companies to um, get some stuff that you guys might be interested in. Like I did the Fujifilm macro lens last week, or maybe it's 2 weeks now, and but I have some lighting coming in and another lens. This one's for Micro Four Thirds, and I have, of course, some software also to review with DxO. Because as many of you know, they just released the Photolab 6 and some one other thing I can't remember now, um, which is great. It's got some supposedly better denoising algorithms, and I'm going to test for that and see how that looks. I mean, I'm already really happy with what it does now. Does it really need to do more? I don't know, because it's so good now to the point that if you're trying to reduce that much noise, you really need to try and uh, there's a limit, right, to how much noise you can actually remove before there's really no detail or anything to recover anyway. The old adage, garbage in, garbage out when it comes to processing and stuff. Um, but that said, let me pull up the chat window so I can check in with everyone. David, oh hey Dave, we were just chatting offline, and Peter, good to see you. David Black from Indiana, Ken Cox, good to see you. Druid and Jeff Painter, awesome. Uh, so I've been doing some street photography last few weeks. I went out yesterday with the photo club and I did some street photography, and I'm trying to incorporate more color. I mean, I did a lot of black and white, but I'm trying to incorporate more color and very bold colors with my photography. And I get a lot of inspiration from Sal Leader right now, also Eggleston and those are the two I've been looking at for inspiration. And Sal, I noticed a lot of his photography has very strong reds and oranges, and he also does a lot of reflections. And in his older photography, I've yet to see anything he's done on digital, because I know he shot digital for years, but I still can't find anything. um, and he shot Micro Four Thirds, I think, mostly Panasonic, but he started with Olympus actually when he started his digital journey with photography. And I guess what else is so I'm trying to combine what I'm comfortable with and what I know how to do with a little bit more style or creativity added to it. So I'll share with you a few images that I took yesterday and the week before, and you'll definitely see the inspiration from Sal Leader and Eggleston in these photos. So I'm really happy. Like I said, if you guys were with me a month or two ago, I was kind of frustrated with where my photography was going, which was nowhere. I just felt like I was taking the same images over and over again, and I got a lot of great advice, and now I'm starting, like I said, I'm starting to feel it now again. And I had such a good time yesterday when I went out shooting. Of course, being with the club is always nice with everyone there. That's a big part of it. But the shooting or the photography itself, I really did feel like I was in my element, right? Doing some street photography, and it's not really street photography. It's more like architectural because there wasn't a lot of people out there. But I did get a few shots with some of the others in the group, and so it was a lot of fun. And if you guys follow me on my Flickr and Instagram, you've probably seen many of the photos already anyway. Uh, but I definitely feeling really good about the direction anyway. I mean, the photos aren't particularly great. I'm, of course, everyone says I'm my own harshest critic, but they're okay. They're okay. But what I'm more happy about is the just sort of the direction or vision I'm starting to have for the kind of photography I want to do. And I know I'm making this all about myself, but I feel like a lot of you can relate, right? Maybe you've kind of hit a plateau in your photography where you feel like you're just taking the same kind of images over and over again, and you reach a point technically that from a technical standpoint, you can do everything you need to do with your camera. Your camera, what it can do, what it's capable of, but you need to find new ways to uh, use the camera. So with that said, I did some other things as well. So let me go ahead and just get into the images. Uh, because I tend to ramble, right? How do I get there? So I hope everybody can see that. Yeah. All right. So this is in no particular order. It's just how I uploaded them after I processed them. But this is a typical reflection shot. I guess let me first go to Sal Leader's stuff, so you can kind of get a feel for what I was talking about. Reds and oranges, right? And then through the foggy windows for his black and whites. Another, reflection shot here. I didn't capture anything quite like these, of course. I really like this shot here. Um, the one right here. Just the don't walk sign, and just everything he's done. Now I get it. There's a lot of nostalgia involved here because the way people are dressed, the style of the cars are all vintage. But the photography itself, like again, here some very strong reds, and I really like this. Another type of this looks like a trifecta of reflections. But okay, so this is kind of where I was getting my inspiration from, right? And so when I went out yesterday, this is my reflection shot. This is a reflection of the glass windows of the apartment buildings across from it. And I pumped up the saturation and everything. I really wanted to push and make very, very bold colors. And then this little splash of red right here. Again, that is typical Sal Leader, right? Just a little touch of red sometimes in his photos. Um, but you have your complementary colors here of this blue and yellow orange color, and this splash of red that contrasts this corner. And I like the geometry here, and this is the part that I like about it, other than just a pure copy of just what Sal Leader might do. is I like the way these lights inside the building are overlapping and crossing the window framing. So this one I was really happy with, and let me just make this. So this one I was really happy with, and feel free to comment in the chat and let me know what you think about these as I go along. There's about a 30-second delay between when I show the images or when you type the message and I see it, but so try to reference which photo you're commenting on, and I'm open to critique as well. You're not going to hurt my feelings, right? Because I know my photography is not. I'm not like you know I'm not going to be in any galleries. Let's just say that. But I just wanted to share with you kind of my enthusiasm and excitement. I'm sort of re-energized now in my photography, and I'm really looking forward to go out again to shoot some more. So that's what I'm doing here, and that's what I liked about it, and just the basic geometry. We have the repeating patterns. There's not really any symmetry here, so I'm talking about composition, rules of composition. There's not really any rules here except for the repeating patterns and the complementary colors. But I think it came together really nicely. And I even like this little tree down here, just kind of creeping its way into the frame. It's almost like a juxtaposition of nature versus glass and steel, right? Or just a little hint that, this is a live scene, or it just gives a little life to the scene, in my opinion. Sort of like, you put a plant in a window in your house, or people put plants in their office. You just need a little life in your in your scene or in your environment. And I feel like that little tree down there just gives it a little bit of life. So this one came together really well for me. I mean, the perspective, I'm pointing the camera up. So, it bothers me as an architectural photographer that I don't have straight lines. That's just me, but I need to kind of get off that, and take more images that are crooked and not straight, and figure out a way to use that. So I've been trying to do that as well, and not worrying about the lines being perfectly straight. It's definitely handicapping my photography, I think, by sticking to that. Now, for my clients, that I deliver architectural type, real estate photography, lines have to be straight, but for my more creative stuff, it's been holding me back. So I'm trying to get away from that as well. Now, Andreas says he'd be interested. Interested to know how this idea came to you with this picture. Well, immediately when I saw the reflection and I saw the colors, I definitely, that's what drew me to the scene first. And then when I started looking at it and seeing the geometry and the way the lighting is intersecting with the window framing, attracted me more. And then that little splash of red, I was debating whether or not to include that, because it's not a complementary color, right? It's an opposite color. I forget the name they call it, but as I started framing this, I put all these elements together, just like I explained to you, and that's kind of what put it together for me, was all of these different elements, and I thought they, as a whole, they complemented each other really well. And in post processing, there's a lot of cropping here because I did take a picture of almost the whole building, but that's because I was shooting with a fisheye lens, and when I saw the scene, I just wanted to take it, and in my mind, I said, I'll just crop it out later the part that I thought was the most interesting in the scene. But yeah, this is a much, much larger image, frame-wise. I mean, the entire building, the sidewalks, everything is in this image. But when I took it, I knew I was going to crop it into something like this. And when I cropped it, I made very conscious decisions about what I wanted in the frame and not in the frame. And this is the final image. Yeah, thank you, John. Orange, blue, and red really go together. Awesome shot. Thank you. Okay, so that's where I was going with that one. Now this one here is also tightly cropped. I shot this with the 25 millimeter, and the original image is actually the entire building. But when I was going through the images, I said, you know, this is an interesting reflection shot. And colors are relatively muted, right? It's a limited color palette, just yellows and browns, and very strong contrast. And I just like the way the sky reflected through the windows here. And I'll show you the entire building in another shot. But I thought this was just a very simple repeating pattern with the sky reflecting, giving it that little extra bite to the image, you know, or accent to the image. Because I think if the sky wasn't reflecting in the windows, this would be super boring shot. But adding that reflection of the sky just, I think, makes the shot. And then also I like the lamppost. I was very conscious about framing the lamppost in the scene. I wish I could have framed it a little better because there's a little bird actually right here on top. And if I got, you know, if I took a little more time with editing, I could have reframed it so that the bird was in the frame. That would have, I think that would have made the shot 10 times better. But, you know, you capture what you capture sometimes, right? But yeah, not much here other than that. Then I just kind of like the reflection of the sky in the windows. And then the repeating patterns is always a good composition, right? Okay, this one here is a double exposure, and I did it in post-processing. Basically, I have a single shot of that building. This is I think these are apartments. So what I did is I took the same shot and I overlaid it on top of itself, but I zoomed it in so that the building, if you look up in here, you can see the part of the building is up in here in the sky, and then part of the street is also going diagonally this way. So it just kind of framed the apartment complex within itself, right? And it almost looks like a reflection, like I was taking a reflection shot from another building potentially. And this shot, I was just experimental for me. I just wanted to try it and see. It's a very, very experimental shot for me. There's nothing particularly great about the shot, but again, I kind of like how it came out, and it got me thinking about how can I do more reflection type shots, or how can I do more multiple exposure type photography, because multiple exposure really can take two rather mundane scenes, but when you put them together, I think it makes for a much more dynamic image and much more interesting. And to me, this image really worked out well, being able to frame a building within itself through sort of a pseudo reflection look. And so I was really happy with this one too, from a creative standpoint. Whether the image itself is, you know, museum quality is separate. Like I said, I don't want I don't want to claim that any of these images are particularly great, but from a personal journey, in my own personal journey, I'm experimenting a little more, and I'm really liking the images that I'm getting for different reasons. And I don't know what would have made this picture better. The only thing I'm not happy about with this image really is the color palette. It's very brown, uh, and there's no particular color that pops out. I would have liked to have had something in here a little bit stronger, but this is Monday morning quarterbacking, so to speak, right? It'd have been nice to have something pop here, like if a person was standing here with a bright red umbrella, but it's not raining, so why would they? So there's other things that this picture is kind of lacking some accents that would make it just really pop, I think. But from a creative standpoint, I do like the direction that this image is taking me, and sort of opening my mind up to other possibilities in the future. Okay, now this image here, this is another Sal Leader inspired photo. Very strong oranges. There's a tiny bit of red in this image, but not much. I would have liked the red here to be much stronger. Just a little hint. This is red brick right in here. I could have done that in post processing, like made that red pop a little bit, but I just decided to leave it. But again, we're having a reflection of this apartment building and this is the same building that we had before, because once I saw the reflection off this building, I tried a few different shots. And in this case, now we're getting to see more inside of the building, and the strong orange glow from inside. And I'm not sure what's causing that, because that LED lighting it's LED lighting. Maybe the lighting itself is very, has a white balance of like tungsten, but it's definitely not real tungsten lighting. It's just LED lighting. And then we have the blues up here. And then, of course, all the geometry in the intersections of lines. I think all of this came together really well. And then just this white pole. I don't know. It's almost weird that it's there. And then down here, you might see a little face. And this is a reflection of a poster on the other side or behind this this pole here. I don't even know what this thing is. It's just a giant pole standing up in the middle of nowhere for no reason. Sometimes, they try to do things architecturally that are just, I guess, for cosmetic reasons or artistic reasons. But this worked for the shot. But when I was actually there, I was like, this thing is in the way. It's a pain. It's not, I don't want this in the frame. But then when I started framing it and trying to put it together, I thought it just it came together a little better. But yeah, this again is just a reflection, Sal Leader style shot, just a modern take on it. And this picture, I just took it because it's your typical street photography shot. And while I was there, what I did is I walked right up to this corner and stood there so my reflection would come down. And then I let a couple other photographers take my picture while I was standing there. So there just wasn't a lot of people out at 7 a.m. So I don't know if anybody used that shot, but I said, hey, let me stand over here and we'll do the classic long shadow of a person coming down the sidewalk, right? So this shot, nothing. I don't really like this shot, other than it's a typical street photography shot, right? And it's been done a million times. So, but I thought I'd take it and see. Just because it's been done a million times doesn't mean that I can do it, right? So I took the shot to see if I do this kind of shot, can I make it work? Can I make it look as good as, the other shots I've seen? And this is close. This is the kind of shot I'll probably analyze a lot more, later, and try to find elements that I think are a little bit more unique, or ways that I can make this image more unique to my style of photography. In of itself, you know, anybody with a camera could take this shot, right? Uh, so there's nothing here that I'm crazy about, but yeah, this is an 8 millimeter. This was my fisheye lens, and then I did the fisheye correction in post. And I got low to the ground, as you can tell from down here, just to make the shadows a little bit longer and the lines. This again is the fisheye. I did some correction in post for the fisheye effect. There's still a tiny bit of distortion here, which I was okay with. I could have made the lines completely straight, but I decided that, again, I feel like straight lines are holding me back because I'm always trying to get straight lines and level horizons and just technically perfect architectural images. So I left a little bit of distortion in this one, for creative reasons. So you can see there's just a tiny bit of bow along the sides here and along this side. And if it was a little bit earlier in the day, I could have got a better lighting over here on the right side with the sun kind of being a little bit sharper or harsher. I would have liked a little stronger shadows. But that's what it looked like when I got there. And nothing here to see other than my only creative decision here was not to get perfectly straight lines, and then go with some colors. And I had a hard time punching up the blues and the oranges here, because the sun just created this very soft, not soft, but hazy kind of light. And when I tried to process it more, it just started looking over processed. So I decided to not go for that, and over processed in a bad way. Like it just looked ridiculous when I tried to do too much to it. Okay. Not sure why that's in there twice. Now this image here, this is very representative of the style of photography that I want to do. Now, just ignore the just ignore the processing, right? I basically did a film simulation, added some grain, and then the film simulation kind of muted a lot of the colors, right? Just ignore that. That was a purely creative choice. But another creative choice in this image, and I've mentioned this before in other streams, that I like to include a lot of information in my images. And that goes back to what I do for my clients when I do their commercial properties and things. I like to include information in the image that the viewer can use, right? And this shot here, I mean, the other creative choice was to try to get some flaring from the sun. So I had it kind of peek over. I had to kind of move up and down, back and forth to get that flaring just right. But information in terms of this street, it's really interesting because you can start with the most obvious. There's a trash can here. There's some bicycles over here. There's a sign here. There's a school bus here. God knows why. A truck. This building here that's being put together. I don't know if this is just the base of the building and it's going to be, another 20 stories on top, but it'll be interesting to see what this turns into. And then, just the street lamps and the fence. I mean, there's just so much information in this image for a viewer to kind of go through and look at. There's even, road sign back here, the stop sign up here. And this is what I'm trying to combine. I'd like to be able to combine things, information type photography with a more creative style. And I don't know. I haven't been able to do that successfully yet, where I can get very strong, bold colors together with this kind of high density informational type shots. I mean, certainly this yellow school bus could have worked. This building, but this shot was just I think it's a nice shot, and I like it for the information, but creatively speaking, it's a little bit limited. There's not I don't feel like I really achieved both ends of this spectrum that I'm trying to combine, where it's a super bold, high contrast, informational type photo. And maybe that's not possible, because when you include a lot of information, there's so much detail, it might be hard to get a very strong, bold color to stand out when there's so many other things going on in the frame. But I'm getting there. I mean, I like the limited color palette here, but it'd been nice to have some stronger accent. And if I work the scene a little bit, maybe I could have used, if I go back there and that bus is still there, I'm definitely going to try and work this yellow bus somehow, but still capture all of the information of the environment. So I guess they would call this an environmental image, but I think this is more representative on the informational type style that I like to do versus the more Sal Leader, strong, bold color reflection type photography that I also like. And I'd like to be able to combine these two and come up with my own style somehow. But we'll see. We'll see. It's progressing. Okay, this is something I probably it's been a couple of years since I've tried this, where I do multiple shots at different angles of the same building. And all I did is I took one shot, walked a couple of feet, took another shot, walked a few more feet, took another shot. So I ended up taking 6 images, and then I layered them in Photoshop, aligned them, manually aligned them, because I wasn't on a tripod or anything. I was just doing handheld, and then overlaid them and stacked them using a soft lighting type layer. And this is something another viewer showed me before from some other photographers doing this style of photography. And I took this image really just to share with the photo club, because probably there's a lot of members that have never seen this kind of photography. And it's definitely something that I've seen a lot of street photography done this way, but it's a lot more interesting when you have crowds of people in the scene. So maybe more of an elevated point of view, looking down, and crowds of people, then doing this multiple exposure and layering them is a lot more interesting than just this. But I just wanted to show the technique and the kind of results you can get. So this wasn't anything that I was really going for when I got there, but it was more of a, share with the photo club a different kind of style of photography maybe they hadn't seen before, because it was certainly new to me just 2 years ago. But I thought it came out pretty neat, and there's a lot of detail in. If you actually, I cropped this image, meaning I didn't, for some reason the entire resolution didn't post. But if you zoom in, there's actually a lot of detail in the individual lines. You can see all the brickwork, you can see the railing. There's a lot of interesting detail in here, but it's I don't know, for some reason this image didn't upload properly. Uh, this is just a shadow of a statue holding some scales or something on a courthouse. Um, I don't know. It's okay. I didn't that you know, because everybody takes shots of the courthouse with the entire statue. So I wanted to try to capture an image that was different. And this is something you can really only do when the lighting is hitting the statue a certain way, right? So that it reflects right onto this corner. But I don't think it really worked out too well. But it's okay. And this is pretty much straight out of camera. I was using the Pen F with a monochrome profile. This is another normal shot. This is inside of the, I think, the U.S. Patent office building. And I just thought it was an interesting layout of the furniture in this space. But overall, nothing special. And obviously, it was a fisheye lens, my 8mm fisheye. Okay. And let's move on to the next one. This is a shot of David Crooks. He runs the photo club I belong to. And I went with a crooked shot. And again, trying not to keep horizons straight all the time. So that was a creative choice to go a little bit crooked and then just capture some scene, trying to tell a story of our day out with the photo club. So that's all this was. And I was debating between color and black and white because David wears a bright red hat, but unfortunately he was in the shadow, so the red hat didn't have any pop to it. It was just very dull, dark, shaded red. So it didn't work out too well. So I just said, okay, the color's not going to work, so I'm just going to go with black and white. But I feel like this was composed well, and does tell the story of our morning out on the photo walk. This one here, this one is out of focus, but I liked it. I just like the very strong blown out highlights and the very strong shadows. And again, this is almost straight out of camera. I may have tweaked it a tiny bit, but it's pretty much straight out of camera and it's blurry. It'd have been nice to have somebody in the scene, but I just took the picture and I didn't think about the image too much until I got back and saw it on the computer. And I was like, this image actually, I like it. That all of the details, other than the brickwork on the floor, on the sidewalk, that's really the only detail, right? And everything else is soft. And that's what drew me to this image. And of course, the strong contrast, right? So I'm not trying to capture, details or patterns or nothing in particular. The only thing I did consciously was this shadow here going into this corner. So I'm always very conscious of my corners when I take a photo. Where are the lines leading you? Are they leading you into the photograph or leading you to a subject? So in this case, the shadow is leading you to the lamppost, but the lamppost is blurry, but I like it somehow. So this was a good shot. It feels very nostalgic too for some reason. But I do like how this came out. This is the same shot, but this time I did all the corrections, right? And this one is, I pushed the shadows so you could see the person standing there, but otherwise it's pretty much straight out of camera. Monochrome profile 2 with the high grain, setting, on the Pen F. I didn't like this picture really much at all. But I put it in there just as a contrast to the other photo that I did like. And it's just for my own personal reference. But this is the kind of shot I used to always try to take. Straight lines, everything is level, there's no perspective distortions, and the image is relatively flat. If you take out the grain and put the color back in, this would be a typical shot that I would do for a client. So I don't want to waste time on this image. I didn't like it very much. This was another just drive-by type photo. I was just walking and I saw this can and I said, oh, okay, this got some interesting geometry with the shadows and the brickwork, and there wasn't much color. The brick was kind of a sand color, so I just said, okay, let's just do a black and white. So this image here is also pretty much straight out of camera, other than I just cropped it square and got a very minimalistic type image. It's okay. Again, this is like 1 in a million type shots, right? Like a million people would take the same shot if they saw this. This is another one that's almost straight out of camera. Again, monochrome profile 2 with high grain. And I can tell you what my goal was with this image, right? It was really, there's 2 elements here that I liked. Number one is there's 3, right? I thought the lighting was really good. I really like the lighting in this, because these letters are sort of backlit here, and then we have this really strong lighting here. So lighting wise, I thought was really interesting. And then number 2 was I like the geometry. Now you'll notice that I made a straight line here with the framing, so that was intentional. And then I tried to get this line off into the corner, but I couldn't get the camera angled in a way that all these elements would come together and look right and still get. So I didn't really get the corners right, other than right here, I was able to get this down into the corner and this edge down to the corner. I really tried to make this corner work in the top because that has the most contrast. But I couldn't get that to work. So I just said, okay, I'm going to make this line straight and then use this corner and this corner to draw your eye into the frame, right? So the geometry overall is there. It's not how I really wanted it, but you work with what you got, right? But the second story here, the story of this image, is this little spider web over here. And my intent was that really there's this, because this is an apartment building, right? So nobody knows this except me, right? So how am I telling a story if nobody knows what the heck they're looking at? But this is an apartment building or condos up in here. And right here you have this little spider also making a little home for himself, right, underneath this light. So that was the third element. Was my story was this spider web making a home for itself underneath everyone else's, homes above it in this condo. So whenever you build a structure for people to live in, there's always going to be, nature, right, coming in to live with you. In this case, the spider web. If you were in the city, it'd be rats. But this is what I was going for. But other than that, this image is not very remarkable. But those are the 3 elements. This one here has a very, very strong Sal Leader influence to it, right? with the very bold oranges. And there's a little splash of red here with the person in the coat. And that took, so I waited. I saw them walking into the frame. So I waited for them to kind of get in between the two posts. I took a few pictures to frame the shot before the person got there. And then I waited for them to kind of walk into the frame. I wish the red was a little stronger, but definitely very strong, bold colors here. And it almost has a nostalgic feel to it. This could be taken really 50 years ago. There's nothing in this image that dates it, right? So it's kind of a timeless image in that sense. But actually, you see this sign here and this lamp. If you go back to this image, that's what this is. This here is actually right here. And there's a little spider web right in here. But anyway, just to give you some perspective of, I was trying to work the scene the best I can, because there's a lot right here in this one little corner that I found really interesting. So I like this. I just noticed a little green dot right here. That's cool. That's cool. You never know what you're going to get sometimes. But there's a lot of cool elements. I like how the lights are all surrounding the fire hydrant. I like the light here coming down onto the person's red coat. And I like the lamppost showing a little reflection of the buildings across the street when the sun was hitting that. I mean, there's just a lot of things in this I really liked. And just everything is out of focus except right in here. So I had mixed feelings about that. Should I have gotten a little deeper depth of field? Maybe that would have helped, but I didn't. So that's what it is. It is what it is. Druid's asking, did I try focusing on the hydrant rather than the post? I believe I did try, but then I didn't feel like the depth of field didn't look very shallow when I did that, and it just looked very crispy. I didn't want that look. I wanted it to be more, I wanted the image to be softer and more about the color than the things in the shot. So if I'll see if I can find another shot of that same scene where things are more in focus. Maybe it's better. Maybe it is, but it didn't. The other shots didn't have the person in the red coat, in it. They were just shots that I was trying to frame and get the look of the scene before the person walked into the frame. Okay, this one is more of a Eggleston. I forget his whole name. But when I saw this, I was like, I don't know if you guys have seen that picture of the red room. This reminded me of that. Now, this is not red, it's orange, right? And there's a little splash of red in it. But I just like the simplicity of this scene. I like the colors in it. I like sort of the lines from the electrical wiring and the tubing. Just a simple shot. I mean, nothing special. This image works as a set in a series more than it would if it were just on its own, right? And helping to tell a story of that day. But for those of you that aren't familiar with the Red Room, let me see if I can find that real quick. Red Room, Eggleston, yeah, Eggleston Red Room. This is the red. Seriously, that's the biggest image we're gonna get. This is the Red Room. Kind of similar, right? God, let me find a bit bigger picture of it. Yeah, this one should, all right, there's a decent size. Uh so this is the red room, right? Man, this overlay, can that go away, please? That's a tiny image. Dang it. Someone made a blue one. Well, anyway, you get the idea, right? The red room image. Uh, so here's my shot. So here's my shot. It's not red, but it's very, very similar in style, right? Very, very similar. Okay. This is just a book on a table. This is a, I don't know. What I really didn't take a picture of what was the most interesting thing about this book is this little note on here. Uh, it's hard to read, but basically, it says, "I'm not lost. I'm a traveling book. Pick me up, read me, help me with my travel. Look inside for details. Bookcrossing.com." That was actually the most interesting thing about this image, and I didn't capture it at all. It's kind of blurred out. But apparently, people just leave books laying around for other people to read, and then they leave it for somebody else to read, yada, yada. But this reminds me of a project that I wanted to do, um, of taking pictures of these tiny libraries, right? They have these little libraries all around different neighborhoods where it's like leave a book, take a book type thing. And I wanted to go around and photograph these little mini libraries that are all over the place. There's not so many here where I live, so I'd have to travel a bit. But anyway, this is a bad photo overall. It doesn't tell the story I intended it to, and there's really nothing interesting about it unless you're a Fiona Hill fan. Maybe this might be an interesting image. Okay, if you look closely here, right, this is where I cropped in earlier, is right in here when I saw the reflection. Now, it wasn't this exact shot that I cropped in. It was another one I took that I underexposed by 2 stops and cropped in. But this is a typical architectural shot, you know, try to get my lines straight. I didn't get it quite right. There's still some keystoning in it a little bit. And normally I would try and correct for that, but I said, you know what? I'm not gonna do too many corrections. I just want to capture the image as I did without a ton of corrections, other than the fisheye. I had to correct that most of the time. But it's an okay shot. I mean, the only redeeming value of this shot is the just the sky and the colors, sort of the mood of early morning, a quiet early morning at a hotel, right? And this would make a semi-decent client shot. If I were to do this for a client, I would stand probably over here, so I didn't get this traffic signal and this traffic signal in the shot. I would stand over here, and then I would get this signage and this signage to fill the frame a bit more, while shooting a little bit wider angle to capture sort of the mood. But this would be a good shot for a client, almost. But this was probably the first or second shot I took on the photo walk very early on. And, you know, I was just kind of getting my juices flowing at this point. So the first picture I take is a picture that I do all the time for my clients, just an exterior shot of the building. We just happen to have really, really nice lighting, you know, early morning. Chuck says, so the street light was not a reflection. No, it was not a reflection. The street light was right here in the frame. But again, it wasn't this. This isn't the one I cropped in. It was another one, but virtually exactly the same, other than being 2 stops underexposed when I took it. And this is your typical informational shot that I would give to a client, right? You can see the streets that it's on. You can see access to the building, parking available, the front entrance. You know, there's a lot of information here that I would give to a client in a shot like this. I would have just gotten closer and used a wider angle lens and then make sure the signage was a little bit more visible. I mean, we have the Holiday Inn here nice and prominent, but there's also a really good sign here with some information. What is down in here? Oh, bistro. There's the front entrance. So, you know, from a client's, if I were delivering this to a client, it would be a little bit different. I like this corner. Well, anyway, look at the detail you get. This is the 25 millimeter f1.8 lens, and I was shooting at f2. Man, you can see all the little birds up here on the top. You can almost read the license plate on this car over here. But this is towards the corner of the lens. I can read the license plate on this one. It's a JTX7422. And considering this is the corner of the lens where it's a little bit soft, that's pretty good at f2. So there's some elements here I think could work creatively too. I do like the bright or the strong yellow of the street traffic signals. And we have these greens here. This is definitely worth another visit, to go back and just sit there and look at this scene for a while to try to find something. And I like the very retro design. This is definitely a 1960s type style architecture. So I like that. I bet Nick Carver would do an awesome job on this shot, right? It's a little taller than most things he takes pictures of, but he would love this kind of shot, I think. All right, this shot I didn't like. I mean, I like all the gritty detail here and the train tracks and stuff. This is the metro going in between 2 buildings. My God, I would not want to live here, but I didn't like this shot. I'm going to show you another angle I took of this shot that I like 100 times better. But again, you know, technically, you know, I did straighten the lines out because I took this with the fisheye, I believe. I believe this was the fisheye lens. Yeah, the 8 millimeter. So I had to do some perspective correction, right? Or distortion correction. And then I recropped it so that the lines would go from this corner and then out into the frame. But there's not too much I like about this shot. Honestly, it's just okay. I like the trucks and the buses down in here. I mean, they're too far away. I'd have to move and see if I can get an angle where I can get a shot of that next time. But this is kind of the same scene, but this shot I like 100 times better. And I'll tell you why. There's a lot more information in this shot, right? That a viewer can take from it. So there's a little sign here. Down in here, you can see the chain link fence. You know, the stop sign. You can see the power lines here, right? Now you can really see these are more apartment buildings back in here. And then down here, there's a guy walking, right? He's actually one of the members of the photo club. There's a guy walking down here. You can see he's holding his camera. And then the cones down in here. I mean, there's so much information in this shot. This is more my style, where I try to include lots of details. Unfortunately, I couldn't include any color because the color was just blah. It was mostly in the shadows, and there's a lot of dark blues and things that I couldn't work with. And this building wasn't very interesting either. The way the light is dappling onto it through the trees. So it didn't work in color for me too well because I couldn't get any really bold colors. But from an informational technical standpoint, I really like this shot because of the information of this guy walking, these cones, the sign here you can read, the little traffic light for the train, and then the power lines and other apartment buildings. This really made, and and as I keep looking around, I even see more things, right? Like this is where people wait for the train and board the train down in here. Lots of little bits of information that just for me personally is very satisfying. This was another photo walk I did. This was in Old Town Alexandria. This shot failed. I tried to do some geometry with the half circles. You see how this bowl is kind of cut in half? Not quite, but it's not a full circle. So I tried to cut these two circles down to kind of match the circle down here. This is basically a water fountain. This fountain down here is for dogs, and then this fountain is for people, right? This was a fail. Would have been more interesting, this shot, is if you could see the footprints of the dogs walking up to this bowl, and then footprints of people walking up to this, like wet footprints. That would have been 1,000 times better. But I totally missed that story when I took this shot. I see it now after I took the picture. I'm like, damn, I totally missed the story of this shot, because that's what the story is in this picture, is people drinking out of one, dogs drinking out of the other. And you probably recognize that that's what this is. But there's no footprints of people really, and there's no footprints of dogs. Maybe a little bit down here and a little bit over here, but it's a total missed opportunity. But when I go back, I'm definitely going to try and tell that story if I can, even if I have to make my own footprints. But all the same, there's definitely a story here, but I missed it. My architectural brain, looking for shapes and geometry kicked in, and I totally missed the story on this shot. So that's so this is a good educational thing, I think, right? It'd have been a lot more interesting with footprints around the corresponding. Okay, so this, like I said, this was about 2 weeks ago when I went into the city. So I was again trying for strong colors, bold colors, reds and oranges with Sal Leader. This shot is just a couple of chairs bumped up against each other, and it's almost there. I still failed on this image because you can't tell these are chairs. So there's no story here. It's just almost an abstract, which in of itself is nothing, right? I really wanted to be able to tell a story with these two chairs, being next to each other, but I failed. So again, this is an opportunity for me to go back and do it and tell a story. because I have the other elements there, very strong, bold colors, but I have no story really going on here. So uh, that's that. These were just some roots growing out of the sidewalk. I don't know why I took this picture. Sign of fall coming. Now this shot I really liked. Because this is not a shot I normally take, right? Where I have motion in the scene. I bet you could go through like the thousands of images I've posted, and you could probably count on one hand how many times I showed motion in the scene. So this was definitely really a really good shot for me. I really liked what I captured here. And then, of course, the tire marks going out to the street, lead your eye to the motion. So there's a lot of good technical elements here. Now, I'm not crazy about the lighting and the composition overall, but it does have elements that I do want to start to try to incorporate in my photography in the future. So this shot was very inspiring to me personally, uh, because again, it's an area that, or it's a technique that I rarely use. I rarely show motion in my photography, but I think it works here. And if I practice getting good at showing motion, because that's something else Sal Leader did, and another photographer that I can't remember their name. They tended, when they did street photography, they tended to show motion in their shots, and so I was trying to do that here. I was very intentional about the shutter speed. I think if we look at the specs, yeah, 1/4 second. So I brought the ISO down to 64 to slow the shutter speed down as slow as I can. And then I wanted the shallow depth of field, so I kept it at f1.8. But this shot works for me in a lot of ways that is going to help me grow or expand my photography. So that's why I like this one. Again, this is very early on in my journey, trying to get an inspiration from Sal Leader, but strong colors, right? Red and yellow in this case. And there's a lot of good detail in this shot too. There's not a ton of information. But I was debating if I should get much closer like this, like not just crop in like I did here, but actually go back and physically get closer to the doorknob to try to tell the story about this doorknob, right? Because you can see that this thing is just beat to hell. And I like the texture around the doorknob itself, showing, how people grab the handle. There's even a little bit of tape left on the door when they were painting around the door handle. There's a lot going on right in this spot here. So I feel like you can see where they missed, they pulled the paint off and pulled the tape off and peeled off some of the paint. Looks like they left some of the tape on the door. Anyway, there's a lot going on right there that I think when I go back, I'm going to try and capture the story of this door handle and this lock. And again, this is something I didn't notice until after I got home and looked at these images. When I was there, this is what I saw: very strong, bold colors. I saw the geometry of the red and the yellow, and going with the symmetry of splitting things in half, and then adding that little accent of the bench next to it. Just sort of balances the picture out, because it crosses the brickwork, right? The intersection of the bench, the slats in the bench intersect with the lines. So that's another thing you're going to see a lot in my photography going forward is just lines intersecting. I really like that, how things just cross each other. in different ways, in different patterns. Yeah, just leaf on the ground, nothing special. Okay, this one is also very inspired by Sal Leader. This is a reflection off of a steel trailer, a stainless steel trailer that was sitting. And behind the trailer was this restaurant. And, I really like the orange highlights. And I like the very painterly look that this reflection gave. So I didn't really do anything. This is also almost straight out of camera. I mean, I'm sure I'd added some contrast or something and maybe a little saturation, but for the most part, this is straight out of camera. And this was strongly influenced by Sal Leader, again, on my part, to find reflections that I thought would have these bold colors. Because down here, we have this little splash of red of the person sitting there, which is, heavy Sal Leader influence, right? He always likes those little touches of red in his images. And this is David Tellett. I don't know if David Tellett's here, but this is David Tellett. And over here, I believe this is David Crooks. I'm not 100% sure, but I think this is David Crooks. So this is our photo club again. And this is this was a really, I think I successfully copied Sal Leader, or got a lot of heavy inspiration from Sal Leader. And what I like about this image also, again, it's timeless, right? Like there's nothing in the image that dates it to a particular time period. Very, very generic in terms of time. And then, of course, I like how I don't know why this was brown. I'll have to go back and figure out why. This might be just dirt from the pollution, and the rain is just making it come down. Or it might be grease because this trailer is actually a food truck. I might have a picture of it somewhere. This is just bold colors and a leaf showing signs of fall. Nothing special here. It's okay. This was an interesting shot. I just like the group of people walking and on a street with the cars behind them. Now the street behind them is closed and people have to turn left or right. I'm sorry, the street behind them is open and they're walking on the part of the street that's been closed down. It's your typical street shot, street photography shot, right? It's not particularly unique in any way, but you can see people's faces, so that makes it a street photography shot, right? This one failed. I don't think this worked too well. It's just a couple going home after having dinner. And so there's a mild story there, but I don't feel like the lighting or the composition really helped at all. This is a reflection. I wish this light was on so that I'd get a little white spot here. I could have added it in post, but if there was a white spot here, this shadow would have been a little different. It would have made it more interesting. So I'll have to go later in the day if I want to take this shot again. I don't know. I was trying to make this scene work. This is the same light post that we saw in the reflection in the previous shot. So I was like, okay, planes are flying by. So let me get a plane and frame it between these two red poles over a lamppost. Nothing special. Another one, kind of an average reflection shot. My intent was not to have it out of focus here. but you only get one chance to get this shot, right? So I miss focus. It's okay. And then this is when it was raining. Rain is always nice. You get these really heavy reflections and sparkles of light everywhere. And this is this I applied a double exposure filter to it, so I didn't really do the double exposure myself. It was done in post processing. But I'm going to show that. I'm going to show this in upcoming video. You know, the Nick collection software. I'm going to do a video on that. And I think that's it. Yeah, these are just test shots I was doing when I was testing out a lens. Okay, so that's what I've been up to. I've been trying to get out there and shoot and look for inspiration from other photographers. In this case, Sal Leader for the most part, and then a little bit of Eggleston sometimes will come into the frame. But his style is very different than Sal Leader. Eggleston was more, I don't know. He was more informational type photographer, where he showed things in the frame that were interesting, whereas Sal Leader relied heavily on the creative or aesthetics of the scene. You know, very strong, bold colors, splashes of red, occasionally very minimalistic in a way, but still have lots of texture. Whereas Eggleston was always, you know, everything was in focus. You could see everything in the frame, so you could draw lots of information. So I guess what I'm trying to do is maybe combine those two. But I like to show even more information than Eggleston does typically in his shots. Let me do Eggleston photography. Let's just take a look at his stuff real quick. But you can see his photography. He has a lot of the same. You know, this is just because of the period. But he has a lot of reds and yellows, but not just reds and yellows. Like, I think I've talked about this image before. How I really like this image. Just because there's lots of information here. So Eggleston, I guess, is sort of a combination of Sal Leader and my photography. So he's basically there. I should probably study his photography some more too. I love this. I love this. Look at all the information in this scene. You know, this is the direction I'm going, but I'm going to have to take more modern scenes, and I'd like to focus more on the color. So take a very informational scene like this, but have bolder, stronger colors. This is almost there. This is man, if I took this image, I would be so freaking happy. I would be ecstatic. But I think my style would be a little bit different even from this, but this is pretty close. So let me check the chat here. Druid says, one thing I noticed in street images from America and Europe is that it's mostly without people in it. If it does have people, they are walking away. Any idea why? Yeah. For me personally, you know, I don't like to confront people with a camera, right? So if they're walking up to me and I take their picture, there's photographers that do that. They just, they're crossing the street and bam, take a picture of somebody right in their face. So I think it's more of a just people are just in my case, I just feel like it's rude to just take a person's picture, right, without asking them first. Now, if I can get around to where I get up the nerve to start asking people, can I take your picture? Then you'll see more pictures of me, or more of my portfolio of people's faces in them. But there's also a lot of the general rule of thumb is if they're in public, you can take their picture and you're fine. But you really can't use them commercially at all. You can only use it for your own personal. So I think there's a lot of legal reasons you don't want any identifiable people in your photography. If you take a picture, you have to get a model release for everybody that's identifiable in your image. And even if you get a model release from them, they can still sue you. A model release doesn't give you any really protection any more than not having one. Because a person just has to say, I didn't know what I was signing, because I've heard stories of that kind of thing going on. So taking pictures of people is avoided a lot, particularly if you want to publish anything. Taking picture of anybody identifiable. And I just saw a recent video by, I don't know why his name escapes me, but he was talking about how, people are no longer random or unidentifiable because of the face recognition software out there. You can take a picture of somebody on the street randomly and then use this facial recognition software. And if they have any online presence at all, you can identify them. And that could bring up in the near future problems with street photography, and taking pictures of people that are identifiable. So I think it's mostly a legal problem, right? You really cannot have anybody identifiable in the image, and use it commercially in any way, shape, or form. So any images I have, technically, I'm not using them for profit, and I'm not publishing them, so to speak, in a book or trying to make money off them, right? So my risk is much lower. But if somebody came up to me and says, you need to take that picture down because I'm in it, I have to do it. But if they're not identifiable, like in a lot of the reflection shots, it's all muddy. It's fine, right? So I think that's why. That's my spin on it. It's very difficult to get permission, and even if you do, you run the risk of having a problem, because you might, if you ever want to make money off that commercially, but I'm not an attorney, but I can tell you that a lot of photographers, even taking pictures of buildings, you need to get site releases, architectural releases. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can go on from a legal standpoint as soon as you want to try to make any money off your photography. That's all I'm thinking. I think the first barrier, though, honestly, for me, is just going up to people and asking if I can take their picture so I can get them in the frame. I'm not a big fan of just including people. That's my thoughts. But there's lots of videos on this particular topic that you're asking about, that you can watch. And as David says, we don't want the conflict. I can tell you, even when I'm not taking pictures of people come up to me and give me a hard time. I don't know what's wrong with people. It's just a picture, for God's sake. Oh, Audrey's here. Hey, Audrey. Are you the Audrey from the photo club? That's cool. Um, I rarely see anybody from from the photography club come in the chats. I mean, I don't talk about my YouTube stuff when I'm out in my photo club. And there's a couple people that know. Dave's always quick to point out, "Oh, I'm on YouTube." I wish you don't need to do that, but uh, yeah, for the most part, I don't think people know I'm on YouTube. But it's cool when they do come into the chats. Um, was okay. Anyway, so that's really all I had. I just wanted to. Uh, I partially I feel like showing the photos and thinking out loud what I thought about them. I mean, it's just my photography, but like I said, I hope you guys find some inspiration from the photos I'm taking and can relate to the journey and struggles that I'm going through. Um, that hopefully makes the stream a little bit more interesting. So I'll try and share more photography as I go through this journey and what my thoughts are, and hopefully we'll see some improvement and whether or not I think I achieved what I was trying to achieve. And to that end, uh, maybe I'll end it here. I guess one way of taking photos of a person is to do time for prints. Yes. Yeah. This is done. This is very common actually. This is done a lot. Uh, where you can do some portraits of a person for their own portfolio in exchange for um, you get to use the photos for your own personal things, right? Or business. So you do a portrait session with them, and then you spend a little time taking additional photos of them in the street that you can use for your own stuff, even though stuff they wouldn't use in their own portfolio, but stuff that you would use for your portfolio, either creatively or commercially. This is a very common thing. Um, and it's not something I've explored personally. I do see the opportunity to do that time to time, but I'm not really a portrait photographer. But it would be kind of cool to do some portraits and then have them do things that are more my style or preference for type of photography I like to do. And that's sort of the contradiction, though, right? Why would a model want you to take their picture if you're not a portrait photographer? I'm going to try and do more portrait work. Uh, I watch a lot of Joe Edelman's videos and live streams for help with doing portrait photographer. I think he's one of the best in the business, but specifically, he's one of the best teachers in the business and educator for photography. So I watch him, even though I may never do his style of portrait work, which is quite it's out there sometimes, very creative, but his ability to teach is bar none, at least for me. I connect with him on as a student in on every level. So that's why I watch him. But there's certainly a lot of great portrait photographers and educators out there that you need to find that you can connect with. I just happen to connect with him really well, even though his style is very different than what I might be doing. But he has an amazing experience. Uh, so I could ask him anything, and he would be able to answer it so far, with and explain it in a way that makes sense to me, right? It says in the UK and Europe, there's no legal restriction on images of people in public place. You just have to be careful that they're not on private property. Yeah, there's always precautions. I mean, um, if you're making money commercially off your photography with random people in it, you definitely should have an attorney. You should be working with an attorney to make sure that you don't get into trouble. Yeah, what each wishes to gain. It's definitely an area I need to look into. I mean, opportunities come up for me to do that kind of thing, but I just ignore them for now. Because again, portraits are not my thing. Although I need to know how to do portraits, and I can do portraits, you know, uh, fairly competently, but not consistently, right? Like if I take my time and do a portrait, I can probably do a pretty good job. But if I were to do this for a living and go out there and there's no way I could go out there and consistently go out there every day and do a good job with portraits. It takes me a lot of time and a lot of study and a lot of prep to do like I did some awesome self portraits that I'm really proud of that I did. And I did some portraits for a client that I thought came out really well. But these were like one offs. These were like, I was there, I was prepared, I prepped a lot, I practiced a lot. But for me to go out and just do this every day, oh my God, it would be a train wreck, you know? Because I'm going to do a couple of videos soon where I'm going to do some self portraits with using LED lighting. And it's definitely going to be a lot of prep, for me, a lot of practice until I can do a couple of shots consistently well. And then I'll be able to make the video and say, okay, set up the light here, set up the light there, set the power here, focus here, in terms of focal length and distance with the lighting, everything's going to be set up. And that's one of the downfalls of trying to make a 10-minute video is it's hard to express the amount of time and prep that went in for me to set up everything, because I'll go in and say, okay, put your lamp here 5 feet, stand about 10 feet back, use a 35 millimeter, set your aperture here, adjust the lighting to this. In 10 minutes, it looks really simple, right? And if you do exactly the same thing I do, you might be able to get the exact same kind of shot. But that's not real life. Real life is you go out there and the space is different, the lighting's different, the ambient, the person, the model is different, right? Like I know when I do a self-portrait, what I like when I take a self-portrait of myself. But if I'm doing portraits of a model, how do I get them to interact and smile and look natural and not look posed? And it's a whole level of photography there that I have no experience in and cannot do consistently every day. It would just be awful. So that's why I practice a lot at home. I have thousands of images you guys have never seen of me. I'll show you. It's a little embarrassing, but I'll show you some. I'm practicing all the time. We'll let that pull up. And then I can show you some of the other street stuff. And then I should probably go. Because I need to go. I'm actually going to go shoot a small concert. So I'm going to go look at the space today and see what kind of gear and lighting I can do, or what the lighting in the space is. So that'll be fun. Maybe I'll record some of that and share it with you guys. David might go with me. I don't know. I think he's on the fence about it. All right. It's almost up. So it's going to be in this folder. Yeah. Fourth quarter. I think these are portraits here. just to give you an idea of the kind of crap I'm going through. Yeah, look at these. These are awful. So what I was trying to do here, I'm going to make these a little bigger. I don't want to go full screen because I look like crap. But I dialed one light in to like 3000 Kelvin to get that blue background. And then I dialed the other light at 7000 Kelvin. And then I set my camera to 7000 Kelvin. And I got this effect, right? The blue background with two lights. And then I just went all in on one color. But there's a few there. And then I was trying to do full body, full length shots. I was practicing. This was total crap. It was a train wreck. And then let's see, what was I doing? Oh, that's some product shots with the same lighting. I was trying to do white background. Some of these came out okay. Let me see what's in here. Oh, this was from the that other photo walk I did. What was I going to show? I wanted to show you the fisheye lens. Let me go to those. Fisheye raw. So I did a lot of bracketing because I'm developing a course on exposure bracketing and HDR, which I'm going to try and do those videos. But here's the train shot, right? The fisheye, and then I had to do the distortion correction and all that stuff, and then I came up with that image I showed you earlier. This scene should have worked. This should have worked, but it just failed. I could not get that to look good. What I wanted to show you was the other building, though. Where is it? Where I had those reflections. Oh, here. Yeah, here's one of them. So that shot I showed you earlier, this is the raw image, right? From the fisheye. So I didn't care about the sidewalk and all of this all around. I just like this reflection, so that's why I cropped in right here. And then I moved around. You'll see the next shot I moved so that I got this beam to be right in this corner. Because if you look at the previous shot, the beam is over here on the left. And then if you look at this shot, the next one, I walked up to it and composed it. So I was very deliberate about this particular pole. This might be a lamppost, actually. Since it was daytime, it wasn't on. But I was very deliberate about making sure that this corner went right into this corner. And then, I straightened the distortion out and then kicked up the saturation, etc. But that's what went into making that other shot, which was what, this one? For those of you that joined late, that's this shot. So that's the final image, right? And then here's the raw image. And again, I was very focused on just this part. I should have changed lenses, but I just wanted to capture the moment, and I figured I would fix it later. And there's the final image, and I like how that came out overall compared to the original. But this is the part that I liked about the original image, was just right in here. And System Mature says, I took some photos. Oh, let me get out of this. I took some photos of people living on the street who were more than happy to pose, naturally gave them money for allowing me to take their photos. One guy was great. Yeah, and I find street performers, generally, that's no big deal. They love it. I leave them one of the tips I gave to the photo club was bring some dollar bills so that when you take pictures of street performers, you can leave them $1 or two after you take their picture. So that's one way to get pictures of people that are interesting and they're doing something, are the street performers. Um, but taking pictures of people that live on the street, wow, I would be a little uneasy about that personally, just because of um, I try to avoid them, keep my distance. Um, the way things are now. And Happy Dance Bozo. It's a story that gets to the core of the fun of photography. I'm always looking for it, like the detective. Amazing thing. Yeah, this is true too. I avoid homeless people and children. Oh my God, yeah, you have to be very careful of taking pictures of kids. Um, you don't want your parents coming at you. Trust me. I wasn't even taking pictures of kids, and I had some woman really harass me about taking pictures of kids. And I'm like, this is a telephoto lens. It's focused on a building like 100 yards away. All these kids, walking around me. They're not in the shot. Trust me. Ugh. But she just gave me the stink eye like you would not believe. So some people are extremely sensitive. Some parents can be very sensitive about you having a camera around their kids. You don't want that. But okay, I'll leave it here. You guys, thanks so much for joining with me today and bearing through all those images. I hope I was able to give you some insight into maybe taking some more interesting images. Look at Sal Leader's work and Eggleston. Those are two that I'm really into right now and find a lot of inspiration from. And hopefully I'll be able to come up with my own style. But I want you guys to find some photographer that you like. I watch a lot of Ted Forbes older videos when he talked about different photographers. There's certainly a lot to draw on from there. And then another thing I need to do is just go to the bookstore and find books, right, of photographers and go through them, some photo books, so to speak. That's definitely something else I need to do. But thanks everyone for coming in today. It was great seeing everybody again. I'll try and be back next weekend. Actually, I may not. I don't think I'll make it next weekend. But we'll see. I think I have a photo walk on the schedule. But we'll see. But okay, thanks again, everyone. We'll see you again soon.